My high school bully tried to humiliate me at the reunion, so I let her embarrass herself. I never thought I'd go to my high school reunion. I didn't have fond memories of that place. And the idea of voluntarily walking into a room full of people who had witnessed or participated in my worst teenage years wasn't exactly appealing. But when the invitation arrived, I felt curious. I had built a good life for myself. I was happy, successful, and far removed from the girl who used to get tormented in those hallways. Maybe it was time to face my past, not for closure. Not for revenge, but just to see how things had turned out. But let's be real, there was one person I was particularly interested in seeing, Amber. Amber was my high school bully. Not the casual, immature kind of bully, but the full-on mean girl stereotype. She went out of her way to humiliate me at every opportunity. Spreading rumors, sabotaging friendships, making cruel jokes at my expense. She had a talent for it. She had this way of making you feel so small while making herself look like the queen of the universe. Back then, I felt powerless against her. So, when I walked into that reunion, I wasn't sure what to expect. At first, it was great. A lot of people had matured. And it was nice catching up with some old classmates. People were friendly, asking about my life, genuinely happy to see me. It felt like the high school hierarchy had dissolved with time, except for one person who clearly hadn't moved on. Enter Amber. She strutted in late, wearing an outfit that screamed, "I'm trying too hard," and immediately started making a scene, talking loudly about how amazing her life was. I had barely exchanged greetings with her before she launched into her usual performance, making sure everyone in a 5-foot radius heard how successful she was. I didn't even have to ask what she was up to, she made sure to tell everyone. According to her, she had an incredible career, was dating a very important man, and lived in some exclusive neighborhood. It was like she had rehearsed it all in front of a mirror before coming. Then came the moment I should have seen coming. She turned to me with that same smirk she used to have in high school and, in the most condescending tone, said, "Oh wow, I almost didn't recognize you. You've really changed. So, what are you doing these days?" The way she said it, like she was expecting me to say something unimpressive so she could tear it down, was almost laughable. I just smiled and casually told her about my career, which, unlike hers, didn't require embellishment. I won't go into details, but let's just say I've done well for myself. Well enough that people at the reunion already knew about my work and were impressed. Amber's expression faltered for half a second before she quickly forced out a laugh. "Oh, that's nice," she said, clearly scrambling for a way to redirect the conversation. She then tried to bring up an embarrassing high school memory, something she had done to me years ago. Expecting everyone to laugh along with her. Except no one did. Instead, someone rolled their eyes and another person changed the subject. That was when I realized, Amber had no power here anymore. People weren't hanging on to her every word. They weren't intimidated by her. They weren't even amused by her. And then the real kicker came. A classmate casually asked her, "Hey, are you still working at that retail store?" Amber's face turned red. She stammered, "Oh, no, that was just a temporary thing. I actually have a much bigger job now." Nobody believed her. You see, unlike her, most people had stayed somewhat connected over the years through social media or mutual friends. People knew the truth. They knew she wasn't living this glamorous life she was pretending to have. They knew she had struggled with jobs, had been through a messy breakup, and was, by all accounts, not doing great. She tried so hard to keep up the act, but the more she talked, the more obvious it became that she was lying. And the best part? I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to expose her or call her out, I just let her keep talking. By the end of the night, she was visibly uncomfortable, barely speaking to anyone, and looking for an excuse to leave. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. As I walked out of that reunion, I realized something: I won. Not in a petty, vengeful way, but in the way that truly mattered. I've moved on. I've built a life I was proud of, while she is still clinging to a version of herself that no longer existed. Sometimes, life gives you the perfect kind of justice. Update. Wow. I did not expect this post to blow up the way it did. Thank you all for the kind words and support, it really means a lot. And honestly, reading your stories about karma catching up to your own high school bullies has been both hilarious and incredibly satisfying. For those wondering, I recently heard from a friend who was also at the reunion. Apparently, Amber was so embarrassed by how everything played out that she's completely stopped talking to everyone from high school. She hasn't been in any of the group chats since the reunion and is basically pretending it never happened. I can't say I'm surprised. But hey, maybe this will be a wake-up call for her. Or maybe she'll just keep living in her own little fantasy world. Either way, it's no longer my problem. Thanks again, everyone.